Hi Varun, how are you?
Hello. Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. You are the man of the hour, so of course we'll focus on you telling us about the whole experience of applying to an MBA program, working with LilacBuds, of course, and your emotions through the whole journey, right? From the day you decided to even start applying to the now the
Yeah,
fact that you have got your admit and you're about to head to the US, right? So with that, let's just get started, Varun, by you introducing yourself. Give us a little bit about your background, your profile, and why you thought an MBA would be the right step for you.
yeah, absolutely. So I come with good 6.5 years of experience, predominantly in sales and headhunting. I did my undergrad from Mumbai University itself in commerce. And post that, worked with companies like Airtel Business, Michael Page as well for good 4 years. So yeah, experience from a Indian male standpoint. I mean, I'm already addressing certain points that we'll discuss in this conversation as well. Uh, I come from a very varied experience where most of the headhunting firms that you have in the country predominantly focus on, say, only research or recruitment, but my experience is both on that and sales. So that's a varied experience that I bring that I have. With that, I wanted to sort of leverage both the sides and move into a different industry. My major focus was to pivot to tech as an industry. I've had some experience in the past working with Airtel Business and selling tech solutions, and I wanted to get into a role which sort of uses my core skills, which is say negotiations and BD, to move into a strategic partnership sort of a role within tech as an industry. And that was my major motivation to of exploring an MBA. The journey has been long, but yeah, finally happy to have one positive result and a couple others hopeful for.
Okay, awesome. So that when you started off, right, of course you must be having these questions regarding should I even work with a consultant? Like,
Yeah,
should I try this by myself? And like what would be the value add? So you must have, I'm guessing, maybe spoken to other people before you enrolled with us also. What was your trigger point to think that you needed help and why you felt that it was valuable to you?
my journey was very interesting because we started working only in round two. In round one, I had applied to a few schools on my own. In fact, I applied to 7 schools on my own, thinking I come from a recruitment background. I know how to sell myself as a salesperson. I thought this is going to be, I won't say easy, but this is something that I understand a little bit. And I did apply and had the worst results possible. I had 7 rejects from these colleges. So yeah, round two, when we had that discussion, I think the biggest value addition for me was the direction that you gave me. Was I think we discussed, you understood my profile, you looked at my uh, GRE score, and you told me these are, 3 schools that we should apply to. And out of those three, I have waiting for results from one, but I got into Georgetown and I waitlisted at Tepper. So which were the 3 schools that we discussed as well. So that direction in terms of just by looking at my profile, how you guided me that these are sort of possibly schools that you should probably dream for or aspire to go to, or probably have as a safe school as well. So I think that conversation was very very helpful. And obviously throughout the process, uh, with essays and all that, because I'd gone through that process in round one again, I could see the difference in terms of what I'd say written in the first round, essays in the first round, and possibly essays in the second round, and that I could see that gap. And yeah, I think you helped me bridge that gap pretty well from both school selection standpoint and also from just depth with the essays.
Correct. So I think the essay is very important point that you bring up, right? Like we talked about skills. We talked
Yeah,
about the transferability of those skills. You mentioned about your profile right out the gate, right? In terms
yeah,
of the sales angle that you were somebody who was expert to that, somebody who
yeah,
got expertise in negotiations and connecting that with your goals and applying our whole framework. I'm guessing you remember the whole LTM framework that we started out with
yeah.
to bring out your story pool. How do you think that helped you brainstorm better in terms of what could you write in those essays which were about those goals? Like how did it bring about the goal clarity? What you will bring to the classroom? How will you differentiate yourself from other applicants who are applying to the same round?
I think in the first conversation itself, you highlighted certain aspects which made me realize how my profile could be different from the other pool of applicants, because my sense was this is what I was is I would say very very internal in nature, where I was just thinking about what I have done and what I want to do going forward. But you sort of gave me a sense on how I could be a very diverse profile for a lot of schools to look at. And I think that was one aspect that we discussed. With respect to the LT, I really wanted to emphasize on that part, because I remember when we did go through the essay questions, I think because we had done the LTIM process before that in terms of writing stories and going behind the whys of everything, when the essay question when I just went through the essay questions, I sort of already knew which stories I wanted to share or write about. I think that was something which very easily came out for me, and at no point I felt that wait, I don't have a story for this. So I think that part was very well captured just by one document that that we worked on. Also during, I think, certain points, it's during our conversations on working on essays as well, the why of everything is something that I saw was a major difference in how I was writing essays before and when I started working with you. I think the depth, as I mentioned previously as well, that was something that came out on not just what happened in the situation in a story, but how it impacted me and why that story has a very strong value in my life. So I think those things were certain aspects that we discussed and sort of made me self introspect as well on a few things, which was a very interesting experience, because ultimately you're applying to schools, but you are also going through a personal journey as well. And I think that aspect was something which came out very well in those conversations that we had during our essay discussions.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that is super important, right? Like when you start realizing and reflecting on your own skills and your capabilities, and even knowing that, I have this skill, whether I make it or not, I think I know now what
Yeah.
I'm good at. That itself is a strong realization for a lot of people, and that helps them later on, right? I think, Varun, the real takeaway for you is through that whole experience, you are also distilling out when you go to the B school, what are you going to be strong at, and how you
Yeah.
should position yourself in the future as well when it comes to interviews, right? Like, because it's the transferable skills and of course, plugging of the gaps that will happen during the B school process itself
Yeah.
around the areas that you want to improve on that will help you pivot into your dream career. All right. So with that, moving forward, I think important for you to of course, share what your GMAT score was that we forgot as part of the profile, and
Yeah.
where were like some of the first round rejects that you felt were easier to get. Let's not talk about the super dream ones that you might have applied to, but at least the ones that you
Yeah.
felt were you thought that I should probably get an interview call here in first round, but you didn't get that as well with the score that you had in mind and with the essays you wrote. And then of course in the second round, where else did we apply, and maybe share a few of those data
Yes.
points as well.
So I got a GRE score of 326. And with that, I thought, I mean, I looked at the averages and I felt I'm in that range with all the top schools. So I applied to even Stanfords of the world, which I thought at that point of time would be interesting to at least dream for. A couple of schools that I thought I should have probably gotten, say, an interview call or possibly some progress on that would have been, say, a Michigan Ross or a Duke. I think these were a couple of schools or even Cornell for that matter. These were two, three schools that I felt would have been places where I would have at least got an interview called. But yeah, that was round one. Round two, we discussed, and you brought on, as I mentioned, an interesting point where how I should look at my profile as possibly a diverse profile, not just and look at schools who are more open to exploring something like that. And I think that's where I think first conversation we had was on Georgetown and then USC Marshall and colleges such as Keenan Flagler and Tepper. These are four schools that we discussed, and out of which I applied to three. So yeah, that I think was the journey. I got interview calls from USC Marshall and Georgetown. USC Marshall, I'm still fingers crossed, waiting results. And Tepper have been waitlisted. So that's the update. And Georgetown is where I got admitted to.
Correct. This year, a lot of students have got waitlisted to TEPA, which is due to, I think, the Trump effect to some extent and the funding crunch
Yeah.
that they're seeing. But yes, Marshall, we are still hopeful at this point.
Yes.
And of course, congratulations on Georgetown. I think one other important aspect I would like to mention here is that, your score was excellent. But in round one, we had already applied, so we could not reapply, and then we could not change your
Yep.
stories at that point. That also became a little troublesome area for us in general.
Yep.
So I would have loved to make you reapply there at that point in time, but we couldn't, right? We didn't want to wait a whole year, and we had to move forward with what schools You had not already applied to in round one.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
No,
All
absolutely.
right. With that, I think moving on to the next question is what would your, like, for students who are now starting their journey, you've been through a lot of emotions, you've been through a lot of ups and downs. If somebody who is
Yes.
starting their journey now at this point, what is the advice you would give them in terms of, like, what are things you should take care right out of the gate in the beginning while you're starting your journey, and what things you should plan along the way, whether it be networking, whether it be applications, whether it be choosing a consultant, whether it be your GMATs or GREs, right? What would your
Yeah.
top two, three advice points would be for future applicants?
No, absolutely. I think the first thing that I would say is obviously if anybody who does an MBA would have those 3 to 4 years, at least of years of experience, and would understand what they want to do. But how I feel, one thing that I learned from my round one experience was to speak to as many people as possible. I think that was something that I did not do. So I would very strongly encourage people to have long conversations with current students of schools where you feel you should go to. You should speak to multiple consultants, but understand who understands your story very well. I think that is an important aspect that you should evaluate. Uh, who who has that confidence in terms of possibly looking at your profile and probably guiding you in terms of which schools are possible for you and possibly give you solutions more than just bring out aspects in your profile. I think that was one thing that I look at very strongly. And also have, like, from a networking standpoint as well, one thing that I did which sort of helped me during my interviews was I looked at what I want to do in my career post MBA, and I spoke to alums from schools that I wanted to apply, and I could understand how that path was already forming for those people, and how they picked up certain things from the school, and how the school helped them as well. So yeah, it's obviously good to understand more about the school, but also to understand how will the school get you there. So yeah, that aspect was something that I did, which the I try to bring out in my interview discussions as well, because that showed that I did that extra mile of research at my end, and how clear I am with my goals, and how I see the school helping me as well. So I think those are 3 4 things that I feel helped me in terms of my process. And certain mistakes that I made as well was probably not to speak to as many people in the first round, which I tried to correct in the second round. I think that's sort of helped me as well. So yeah, I think that would be a couple of things that I would suggest somebody to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. I think very, very well spoken in terms of at least connecting to alumni. I feel that's
Yeah.
a very important piece in the whole application process. A lot of people think I can go at it alone, and this whole journey of going alone is something I definitely do not advise. Right? Connecting with alums, connecting with other fellow applicants, being part of some communities, understanding the profiles of, even when you talk to people who are not successful last time around, you get to know what you should not do sometimes
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
whole process. And I think if I was to say, if I was to summarize all of this in general, I would say you got to do a lot of things through the whole MBA application process. Reflection was one that you touched upon. Networking is something that's again super important. And third is, of course, going like iterating again and again through the application material, because you've got 300 words, 200 words, 500 words to say your story. It's concise. You got to really know, narrow it down to what is the message I'm leaving with the reader. And that's where I think consultants like us generally are helping applicants get hyper focused on, this message makes the right sounds, makes the right, gets the reader engaged to know that who you are and what you'll deliver in the classroom
Yeah.
and beyond. All right. With that, Varun, once again, congratulations. Thank you for taking the time to do the testimonial. And of course, we're hoping, fingers crossed, as I said, for the USC admit as well.
Yes.
And let's until then, of course, enjoy the Georgetown admit, and let's see what's in store further in Georgetown, even there. Thank you once again.
Abs- Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yeah, my pleasure to have this conversation.